And the next question is, do ETs possess universal communicators to interact with humans who speak different languages? In most ET encounters reported, the beings appear to speak the native language without the assistance of an electronic device. So, what methods are they using to translate human language, or do most ET beings learn human languages at some points?
It's all of the above. There are cultures that have technology that allow them to have universal translators. A lot of ETs simply communicate telepathically and therefore need no device at all. And some ETs actually do learn human languages. So it just depends on the extraterrestrial and what they prefer to do or what they have access to. It can be any or all of the above, depending upon the species.
Pretty exciting.
All right, if you say so.
um, do spirits ever try to do things and get attention of the living through things like starting? This person is saying, for example, could my dead mother, arrange to have a song start playing on the radio when I walk into a store?
Absolutely. Spirits will do things like this all the time to get the attention of the living. As we have often said, they will use what's already in your reality synchronistically in order to deliver messages most of the time, because that's the easiest way to do it, because the information is already in your reality. And it doesn't take much to cause a certain thing to happen, especially with electronics, that can then get your attention and make you think of them to put you in touch with the fact that they may be sending you a message. So, yes, spirit guides will do this quite often.
So the idea that some people may suffer from something like schizophrenia, where they are watching television and suddenly they believe the television is talking specifically to them, versus an individual who consciously makes the decision to shift into a different state where they can receive the information that's coming through the television, so to speak, in a personal way.
Yes,
And
one can be an out of balanced mental state, the other can be a balanced mental state.
so if you find something like that happening where you're getting communication through something like television or radio, the idea is to remain in a positive state and recognize that it may be a momentary communication per se, but
Yes.
not in a way that is unhealthy in that sense.
Yes, of course. It usually won't be that someone thinks that the television character is actually speaking to them directly, as if they were an autonomous being. It will be more like the person recognizes that something in what is being transmitted has personal meaning for them, and that the timing of the delivery of that has something to do beyond the idea of what's actually playing on the television. The characters on the television don't become the primary style of communication. It's simply something that is used from a being that is not necessarily displayed on the television.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yes.
Now, as open contact progresses and humanity evolves, will we someday be able to connect with people in spirit as easily as it is for us to call someone who's still alive on the telephone?
Yes. We do it all the time in my society.
Can we have Zoom calls with the deceased?
Well, you don't need the Zoom to do it. Eventually, you'll be able to simply perceive them and communicate with them, again, on a telepathic level.
And what's the time frame for that to happen?
Depends on the individual. Obviously, there are individuals who can do that now. You usually refer to them as sensitive or psychics. But for the majority of your society to have this ability, probably within the next 100 of your years.
Very interesting. And when we leave physical Earth, do we retain only our level of consciousness after death? What happens to the mind? No book or source seems to explain what occurs with the mind after death.
Well, the physical mind is the product of belief systems that are no longer relevant when you're a spirit, but you retain the experience that the physical mind had in much the same way that you retain memories of childhood, even though you're no longer a child. So the idea is the experience you had as a physical being with a physical mind is always retained as a part of you. It will always be a part of you when you go back into spirit, because you need to learn from it. You need to add it to the overall information that helps you make decisions as to what to do next. So you will never lose the experience or the memories of the experience, so to speak, but you will not necessarily have a physical mind in the same way that is determined by the belief systems that create the physical mind. You will be above and beyond that. You will have your own identity. You will recognize yourself, but in a different way.
And is it possible to keep shifting into realities where a loved one is alive, even though they're dead in other realities?
It's a rare thing and usually not necessary, because there are lessons to be had, especially in this day and age, about someone no longer physically being in your reality. I wouldn't say it's an impossibility, but it's an improbability for most people, because it's simply not the way most life paths are designed on your planet at this time.
And how do you distinguish between advanced virtual reality simulations and tapping directly into parallel realities? Does your civilization engage with virtual realities?
Well, yes, but at a certain point, there's absolutely no distinction or difference between what you may perceive as a virtual reality and a parallel reality, since the simulation idea, the holographic idea, is a projection of consciousness anyway from all of you. You're creating your own virtual reality every day. So ultimately, you get to a point where there really isn't much difference between the idea of a parallel reality and a virtual reality.
Okay, and this person is asking, they say they were on the timeline for the female to win the election, but and they had turned into joy and creativity. What happened? Now they're affected by a new administration in the timeline. And why is that? It feels like there is no glass wall between the person and the reality they're now experiencing, even though they don't prefer it.
Drop your expectations and insistences. This goes back to the first conversation we had about keeping in the state of being of what you prefer in the midst of perceiving the chaos, so you can be of assistance by maintaining the preferred vibration while the chaos is going along, because that's what's going to allow the momentum to ultimately bring the chaos back down to center. So it's not about being in the wrong reality. It's about staying in the preferred state that represents the outcome you would have preferred, and staying in that state will help with the idea ultimately of getting people to the point where they will ultimately tire of all the chaos, and then you can be of some assistance in helping bring that energy back toward the center instead of going to the other extreme.